Good evening, everyone. Good evening from India. I don't know where you guys are from, so wherever you are from, I hope you guys are having a great weekend and we are here to make it better. So stay tuned. Today, we have a very interesting session lined up and one that I personally would relate to a lot. So just let's start off with a fun fact that UX designers, it's one of the top 10 highest paying entry level jobs. So that means that there's a lot of youngsters tuning in and wanting to pursue UX design as a career. But the thing is, many people tend to ignore or overlook one of the most important aspects, which is the career mistakes that many young designers do in their early stage of their career. And what this actually helps you to stand out from this ever growing audience. So that's where today's instructor, Shama Russell, will provide her insights and experience with mistakes to avoid in your early UX design career. So, a little bit about her. She is a UX mentor and she has over a decade of experience with not just mentoring students from with companies like Springboard, but even mentoring startups through Google Startup Launchpad. So, it's great to have her. And I think there's no more intro needed. So, Shama, it's over to you.
Hi guys. Hello everyone. Do you see me? Hi Vishal. Hi Abhineet. Guys, you have to remember this. I am a coach, mentor for over a decade. I can give a monologue for 60 minutes. So unless you want to get more out of this session, uh, you got to engage. Otherwise, I can just go on non-stop 60 minutes, right? Any of the past students can vouch for it. That's sure we have a very, interesting conversation. So let me start with presenting, we have it here. Guys, do you see my screen? I need feedback. All right, cool. Everybody, let's start here. So, how many of you have made any kind of career mistakes in the past? I want to show off hands, and you could just write me. I'm not putting you on spot. Just me. That's sufficient. I want to know how many more people like me that I can relate to are there in the session. Nobody? Kidding me? Have none of you made any design career mistakes? I'm not sure what you had been doing. Yes, Isaac. All right, Divyam Neil. Awesome. And on the other side, how many of you have made no career mistakes? Abhineet, being a beginner doesn't prevent you from making mistakes, and you'll see some instances. Uh, Nadeem, you don't have to put yourself in a spot by sharing. I mean, if I start sharing my career mistakes, we can be here till next morning. But any of you who's saying you've not done a career mistake, let's meet after this. I wanted to be more truthful than that. However, let's start with what we have today. So, hi everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Shama. I'm Shama Risal. I'm a design mentor for startups and I'm a career acceleration coach. I call this myself. I've figured this out myself because for the longest part of my career, so I've been into design for 2 decades now, or as a practicing designer, design leader, mentor, all of that. First 5 to 7 years, I had no support. I mean, your manager is not your mentor. Your seniors from design school are not your mentor. Your classmates are not your mentors. Mentors are the people who can tell you when you go wrong and prevent you from doing the obvious foolish things that will retard your career, right? So, hence, I found my own peace in helping others not do those mistakes and make awesome careers as designers. And hence, I coined the term career acceleration coach. That's what I do. I do also teach design, but that's not what we are doing here today. All right. So, question two: what are you guys expecting out of this session? And I'm going to give you a tiny quiz, not a quiz, but rather, let's do a poll. Let's pick up some keywords, and I want you guys to put keywords in for whatever you think you want to get out of this session. Yeah, I'm just going to give you a link. Give me a second. Here goes the link. You have the Slido link in the chat. I want you guys to put in, wait, sorry, my bad. I'm going to post it for everyone. It's a Slido link. I want you to put one keyword in what you're expecting from the session today. One keyword. Do you guys see the link, and are you able to put a word in there? Nadine, please don't put it here. Put it on the Slido link that I've given you. I see quite a few of them. Good stuff. Good stuff. I'm going to give you, say, 2 more minutes to put in the keywords there. Some patterns coming in. For some reason, I'm not able to project the results. I'm just going to read it out to you guys as to what are the prominent keywords I see here. So, all right, another minute. We have a bunch of participants, so you could also put multiple keywords if you think there are interesting things out there. Stuff like where to begin, solve, examples, low salary, career growth, finding mentors, learning, where to begin, and clarity of the journey. Awesome. Idea. Okay. Wonderful like you. Yeah, I'm wonderful. And I'm sure you are. You just don't see it. I'll tell you how to see that too. A clear path. Job hopping. I'm sorry for you, dude. Whoever's looking for job hopping. But that's just my opinion of it. I'm sure you have your reasons for that. Okay. So I think we have a bunch of responses, and the top ones that I see here are clarity, guidance, insight, and pitfalls. Cool. So we are going to address this. It's important for me while I'm doing this session to understand what you're expecting out of it, so that I ensure that you get what you're thinking you're getting in this. Saturday evening is very important for all of us. All of us are working through the week. This is very important time that you've decided to spare with me here. So first and foremost, thank you everybody for deciding to take up this session. I would tell you there's a wave of folks and content on how to use tools, tricks and tips, hacks for things. Unfortunately, I'm not in that zone. I am in a slightly different zone. It might tend to be a little boring, but mind you, this is where a whole lot of your loss of efficiency in your career happens. So you'll not even know where you went wrong. So that time when the HR doesn't get back to you, that time when you're passed on for a recommendation or passed on for a promotion, you just don't know what has happened. We are going to understand systematically where those problems are coming from and what you could do to overcome them. So I really appreciate the fact that you've taken time to understand what kind of career mistakes designers do, not live in denial, and not deny that you don't make any career mistakes, but face it upfront, correct it, and move ahead. So that's what we're going to do today. We are going to talk about some of the common mistakes, and we're going to understand what those mistakes are. We are going to spot the red flags, meaning we're going to learn for ourselves as to how to identify those. Because, like I said, a lot of times we don't realize as designers we're doing our jobs fairly well to even think that we are going wrong with something, and just the consequences show up later. And we're also going to talk about how to reset your patterns so that you could prevent yourself from self sabotaging. You'd be surprised to know how many designers uh, reduce their chances of prospering in their careers. So we're going to prevent all of you attending this session. That's going to be my aim and intent. All of you here, please pay close attention. Anything that's distracting you, please get rid of this. Each of these mistakes costs a career, costs a couple of years, if not more, in your career. And best part, you don't even know where you went wrong. So you would keep wondering forever, or even better, you'd keep sulking on, why this guy treated me like this, or why this manager didn't know what to do with me, or why did I not get this chance? You'd keep on wondering and placing a blame on everybody else without correcting your behavior. That's the worst you can do for yourself. All right. So going by what we're going to do here, we're going to talk of a few examples and cases that I had gone through. Each single one of them, they're not fictitious characters. I have faced this incidents, and well, of course, I'm not telling the names, but these are very grave situations. It might sound fairly entertaining when you're sitting in a session and talking about this, but you got to imagine what this person goes through when they are going through that situation. So here's what we're going to do here. Let's talk about the story of few of our designer friends. And probably it's just me. After working in design for a couple of years, either your friends start looking like icons, or maybe you think that icons are your friends. Either ways, these are the folks we're going to talk about. These are real stories of designers who are, who have gone through some of the mistakes that we are trying to identify and understand. We're going to break down those situations and see what they have gone through, and probably do a root cause analysis on that. All right. So Jose is, this is a very smart guy. He has taken a boot camp. He has self-trained himself as a designer after that, and he's actually working as a user experience designer. So a whole lot of you who have not got your first UX job, this might look like the thing that you want to do. He has had an year of experience, and he's working at a very promising startup. He is the only designer working there. Works well with people. Like I said, he's a smart guy. We can do whatever he can do. Very proactive, takes initiative, does things, delivers, all of that, right? A promising young boy, promising young designer. However, most of the times he is found cribbing. And somehow there is no rapport between him and his team. So he has this sense of discontent, and he has this sense of not being aligned with his team, right? So how many of you can relate with Jose? Is there anybody who relates with Jose? Do we have any such folks in here? Okay, I see a response. Yeah, okay. Right. Aniket, Prashant, Aditya. All right. Rahul, cool. So moving on, why do you think this is happening? What's the kind of situation he is in? You might want to write down your responses in the chat box. I'm very curious to know why do you think that happens like that. And I'm not looking for entertaining stories. Maybe missing a mentor. Sure, that can happen. He is the only designer and he's working for a startup. So you can understand there's some amount of aggression in his situation. Yeah, he's the only designer. You're right. Rion, you're right. What else? No competition. Sure, Sonal, that also might be happening. We all need folks like us to be with. No mentor, yes. Saloni is saying, okay, getting people aligned with importance of UX design. Yes, You're right, Saloni, you hit upon something very important. We're going to touch upon that as well. Not being able to do the work that they really want to do, not aligned with business client needs. That's also fair, Abhijit. Lack of design feedback. He is ahead of the game. I don't know what game you're talking about here. I don't know. There's no game. Design is a team sport. All of us are playing it together. So how can he be ahead? We got to play it together. You can't play a team sport alone, my friend. Company lacking design knowledge, Rahul Raj. Oh, quite possible. Not everyone understands it. Okay, so no design culture, right? This is what I feel is happening in his case. And like I said, all of these are real people that I have met. Empathy is a two-way street, right? As designers, we are conditioned to use it for our customers, for our clients, for the users of our products. However, we tend to not use the same principles for our co-workers. So even when Joseph's situation might be a little tricky because he's the only designer, of course, he doesn't have a mentor. Maybe the company, being a early stage aggressive startup, doesn't understand what design is. However, he has picked the situation. He has taken the job. Some challenges are there in every situation. So if you keep on putting the blame on somebody else most of the time, or try to find faults in others, my friend, your chances of thriving in any work environment are close to zero, very low, very low, right? That's what is happening with Jose. I see mindset issues. I also see that he's become a kind of human island, and he also tends to think like I think Sonal mentioned earlier that he tends to think that he's the only one who understands design. Now, we as designers have to be a little more sensitive. Probably we are creative folks, we understand, more about design, but it doesn't give us the privilege to say that somebody else doesn't understand design. All of us are part of the system who are trying to work together to serve some business goals. Design is not self expression, design is not creative expression, design is not just having fun, it's serving business goals, and design is a team sport. If you're not doing it that way, you will feel alienated. This is the context of a startup only designer, but I'll assure, if these problems exist with a designer, if you have mindset issues, if you cannot co-work with people, if you cannot understand and empathize with their situation for your co-workers, in any other situation you're placed, you might have exactly similar problems. Changing the context ain't helping you. Moving on, we have another friend. Again, sorry, she looks like an icon. So Isha is, she's a UX designer who's working for a design studio for 4 years, good amount of time. She is a graphic designer, so she's a powerhouse graphic designer. She's known for that, and she enjoys her work. So she's not looking for, she's not doing something that she doesn't enjoy. She enjoys what she's doing. She does it extremely well. However, in her situation, the only problem is that she has not seen any professional growth. So one, she's a skilled designer. Two, she's doing her job well. Three, she's having fun. She also is appreciated in the organization. Why do you think is she not getting professional growth? What do you think is happening here? What do you think, guys? What's happening with Isha? You want me to refresh the question, revise the question? No? Stuck to the particular company? Okay, the question is, despite being very skilled designer, enjoying her work, being known for her skill set in the company that she works, and she is not the only designer, she works in a team. Despite all of that, she has not seen any career progression. She is where she was for last 4 years, despite all of these things being positive on her side. Okay, I see some responses. She's not going out of her comfort zone. Okay, good points, very good points. Proof of the fact that she is skilled is missing. Right, Saloni, might be the case. I think, Aditya, your point is much more on bang on what I'm trying to say here. She's not getting out of her comfort zone. What else? Soft skills missing. maybe not. She doesn't have any personal problems, so she is thriving in the work environment. Except for there's no, so she gets appreciated for her work. She does it well. She works well with her coworkers, uh, but she doesn't move up the ladder somehow, right? Lack of communication, Isaac. Um, Maybe not. She might be doing same type of problem. Okay. Lack of opportunity, I don't think so, Jerry. Somewhere she has accepted this. Maybe if she had accepted, she would have been a different person. She's having fun with her work, so she doesn't look like she's rejected or anything. All right, so let me tell you what is happening here. So somebody did mention it. She has gotten too comfortable doing what she's doing, and she is reactive most of the time. So whenever you get a new project, she's ready to jump on it. So she has a graphic design skill set, which makes her a very good candidate to start delivering very quick. That's what she's used to, and that's what she does. She just keeps doing that, repeat, 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 repeat. So people do not understand how she is a good UX designer. Maybe she is not a good UX designer. Maybe she's a good UI designer. Maybe she's a good graphic designer, right? So what has happened is she has got caught in this hamster wheel of going over the same thing again, not moving out of it, right? And when a manager looks at you, when you're doing that, they understand you're skilled, but they feel that you have lack of maturity in terms of professionalism. And they also think you're not ready for the next stage. And that's where you're going to get passed for any, progression opportunities, because they think you're good where you are, you're very comfortable, you're doing your job excellent. So that's something um, that goes in the direction of perception management. And also, she has a very set, fixed, static mindset. She is not thinking, she doesn't have a growth mindset. That's what is killing her opportunities, right? Another thing to notice here is also that whenever you think of career progression, for all of you who are approaching their first job or who are waiting for a promotion or grade hike or whatever, your manager needs to see how you're already performing the things for the next level. You will not get the next opportunity unless you can already exhibit that you have moved levels. You think that you get the opportunity to go there and then you start exhibiting, then you give the evidence of your skill set. Unfortunately, somebody else will make the shift. They will already exhibit how they're fit for the next level and they get promoted. You will not unless you're exhibiting the skills for the next level. That's exactly what is happening with Isha here. You get the point, guys. Has any of you gone through this? I know it's very hard to accept. It has happened to me at a point of time. I mean, I have absolutely no shame in accepting things like that, uh, because somebody has to be frank about it, speak up about it, get out the taboo, and also help others understand that, look, I've done this mistake. Don't fool yourself. Don't do this. It's very simple. You can live in denial forever thinking that I'm very skilled. The other person should serve me the next opportunity on a platter. It doesn't work like that in professional life. Sorry. In design, all the more no, because there are 50 more competent designers waiting for that opportunity if you can't take it. It's an extremely competitive field. You cannot afford to be complacent for whatever short period of time that you think it's okay. Yeah. Okay. Rahul, you're saying I'm a solo UX designer in my company and my company doesn't understand. Hmm. Okay, let's talk about that in the Q&A, Rahul. Please bring it up in the Q&A. Moving on, we have two guys, Gaurav and Amrit. Both of them have gone into an elite design school. They're friends, they're batchmates. From the same design school, they graduated together, got into the same workplace, right, through campus. Both of them have very good, salaries, all of that, very competent. And mind you, they've come from an elite design school. Now, over a period of time, Gaurav is had always been a master of the craft. He was the batch topper, the scholar of the batch who has got this international exchange program and everything. Amrit, on the other hand, was a good chap, passed everything good, would work things out, but not as aggressive as Gaurav, and probably not as talented as Gaurav, I could also put that word in there. Uh, Sorry, it's a slightly wrong use of word, but probably I would say Gaurav is more talented or has more skill. I'll not say talent. I'll just say Gaurav is more skilled than Amrit. Over a period of time, though, a very funny thing happens. Both of them stay in the same organization. Gaurav keeps on becoming the subject matter expert that he is. Amrit keep on climbing this corporate ladder while both of them have some skills. And both of them, as you would see from the background, are fairly similar. Gaurav was actually more talented. But the corporate growth that Amrit sees, Gaurav is not able to see. Why do you think this is happening? What could be the reason? And they're now like senior professionals in very good places. Two friends, Vishal, the question is two friends graduated from the same school, got placed in campus and same good design school, um, graduated, got campus jobs, worked for a while, working in the same workplace. The one who is much more talented, perceivably more talented, had been the batch topper kind, and the other one who had been okay, middle, good, average, above average, but not as competent as the other one or not as competitive as the other one. However, the one who is not the topper is the person that's seeing more career growth and very aggressively. Why do you think this is happening? Mm, Jack of all trades, king of one. Jack of all trades is more than king of one. No, I don't agree with that. Saloni, I don't agree with that. Aditya, you're right. Amrit adjusted to the environment of the company is in climbing the ladder, right? Amrit might be more vocal and heard. Yeah, Lee might be the case. Aditya again, Gaurav, maybe he had ego because of the achievements. I'll not call it ego, but I'll just say he has different views and worldviews than others. Amrit is more communicative, okay, aware of what his manager wants to see in him. Probably Rayon, that might be the case. Divyam, I don't know, maybe lack of passion or empathy. Uh, Actually, not. Both of them are very, very passionate about what they're doing. Both of them are very competent and they're very cool guys. So I'll not say somebody is doing something better per se in terms of being more competent or less. Frankly, not. They're fairly competent and comparable in that way when they're put in a situation. Yeah. Causes struggling might be the case, Rahul. I know backbenchers, you have a lot of success stories there. So here's what's happened. Mindset again comes back. Lack of EQ might be the case. Might be the case. One of the things that somebody else, I think Aditya mentioned, understanding business is what Amrit did very well, as well as he spent effort making friends, building a professional network. More people know about him, more people understand him within the organization. So we talked about human islands earlier, people who are so much into themselves that somebody has to really make an effort, cross an ocean and come over to them, right? That's a human island. So Gaurav might be becoming a human island of sorts, whereas Amrit is the person who is, I'll not say generally outgoing, but he has made the right moves with respect to meeting people, understanding them, understanding the business intent behind what's happening, and of course, communication. So, a lot of times we as designers tend to think that, I know my design and I got to just do the coolest part of design, and that's going to give me all brownies of the world. I'm sorry to say the world doesn't operate like that, and nobody gives any damn if you're an awesome designer. Everybody is bothered about what can you do for me. Work runs like that. End of the day, they're running their own businesses, right? The end of the day, they're running their own enterprises. They have their own goals to achieve. We as businesses, we as designers are helping them to achieve those goals. If we don't understand this placement of a designer into an organization, we will always have this conflict of I'm not being appreciated as a designer. I mean, nobody is getting paid to get appreciated, or nobody pays you to appreciate you. Also, even if you're doing, say, a free gig for an NGO, it was not meant to be appreciated. It was meant to be solving a problem. Designers, at the core of what they're doing, are problem solvers. So if you're looking for anything else is a consequence of what you're doing right as a good problem solver, right? That's where this mismatch is happening between the two. One person who has made an effort to not become a human island, he is aware of where he needs to build the right bridges, network with people, understand them, understand the business, and communicate with them as is required. Of course, he's getting a better deal in his career than the other one. All right, lucky. Now, this guy has a slightly funny situation. He is a fine arts graduate who has gotten a UX job, and of course, he is skilled. So he has gotten this job in a very good MNC. He's doing his job well. Again, like we talked about Isha earlier, he's doing his job well. He knows what to do. However, he has this, he's caught up in his mind, and he is always not sure of what he's doing. Is it right or not? And of course, he's not the only designer. He's working with a team. He's working for an MNC. So he's working in a team. But he is living in a very different zone where, despite of being skilled, working well, and everything perceivably being fine for him, things are not working. So he is always in a situation of self doubt, and he doesn't know if he's doing the right thing in his career. Why do you think that's happening? Imposter syndrome, to a good extent. What else? This word has become too popular. I don't know. I think it's YouTube. Too many people talk of imposter syndrome. So definitely it might be the case. What else? Lack of confidence. Sure, could be the case. What else? Indecisiveness. Okay, could be the thing. What else? Stage fear. Um, Stage fear. How does that kind of impact his day-to-day work? Comparing himself with others. I said you've touched upon the right point. No proper mentor guide. Yes, that could be the thing. Being underappreciated for his work. I don't think that's the case. Putting himself under the table. Mm-mm. Mindset. Yes, Jerry, might be the case. Yes, Avtar is saying lack of communication with clients. So let's see. We have a few responses. Lack of confidence to move ahead. Duh, duh, duh. Yes, that's right. This is what he's going through. So he comes from finance background. Now you have to understand. Till a few years ago, there was very few opportunities of systematic education in design in general, and more so in digital product design. So we are all in the zone of, I would like to call it digital product design, because it had been called all different things. When I started working, it was usability. Sometimes it was human computer interaction. Then it got called different things. Then came UX, and now we are going towards more of product design. However, we are all the designers of digital products. I'll put it this way. So digital product design is a very interdisciplinary field. So as of today, somebody could have self-taught herself and become a designer. Somebody could have done a boot camp for a couple of months and become a designer. Somebody could have done sachet learning, like ProApp does, the sachet learning models, and they've become a designer. And somebody would have done a master's, a bachelor's in a design school full time, and they would have become designers. Now you have to understand, you will not survive this if you are comparing yourself all the time. So even if I come from IIT and I can tell you fairly confidently, even IITians have the same fears that somebody who has become a self-taught designer has. Degree of that insecurity might be different. Everybody has that. You will not survive this industry if you compare and keep comparing yourself with others, no matter what your background is. It doesn't matter which background you come in for, right? So that's overall something that you have to keep in mind. Design is an interdisciplinary field. So if you keep comparing yourself and doubting yourself, you are self-sabotaging yourself. You are overthinking. You are killing your chances of improving or getting any place better, right? And this would also happen when you have lack of self-awareness or you are not self-assured. So that's something that I always keep telling my own students that you are no better than anybody else, but you're no less than anybody else as well. You're as good as you can be. Just keep doing that, and you're the best version of yourself. That's sufficient. So having no self awareness gets you into that situation. And a lot of people also try to combat their defense mechanism is to getting into a very unhealthy mode of competitiveness with that, which means I'll use any kind of means to outdo others. Please understand, outdoing others is not equal to improving yourself. So a lot of people build it as a defense mechanism. It's not their intent to hurt others or anything like that, but they get into this, one-upmanship mindset where they're just constantly thinking of how will I do better than him or her. You're not thinking of what am I doing the best, how can I improve myself. Am I becoming the expert that I want to become? You're not doing that. You're just comparing yourself to others, and you're thinking, how will I improve this? How will I overcome this? How will I outdo this person? How will I look better than him? How will I do better than her? You're always so bogged down by others that your own chances of success go down considerably because you're always comparing. You have no objective scale. The other person that you're comparing to might also not be the benchmark of all good and success. So you're just placing yourself in some funny position doing that, right? So just remember that whatever you're doing the right thing. Whatever you are as a skill set, as a person, as a mindset, you are sufficient to be wherever you are. Of course, everybody is the best current version of yourself. You have another version of yourself, iterative design, all of us, right? So the next better version of yourself is waiting for you. However, you're not bad right now, right? So that's something to keep in mind. Moving on. This is a very interesting case, and anybody who guesses this, I'm going to probably give you a chocolate. I don't know, Afif, can we give chocolates? Can we send chocolates to somebody who answers right? I don't know if there's a possibility to do that, but this is something very important. Apparently, a lot of people tend to think otherwise. Kiran is the gentleman who is a self-taught designer, very awesome designer. And he's a freelancer. He has been doing freelancing for a while, earning very well, has great skills. Now, with his situation, and because he early at one point of time, because he did not have experience enough, he was thinking that uh, he needs to get some amount of experience to get into the industry. So he thought that earlier. Now he has that experience, and now he wants to get into a full-time big company job and have a secure life, all of that. With that, he's applying. However, he also gets called in. He also gets doing those end rounds of interviews for any company, but he never gets through the HR round. Why do you think that's happening? This is a very, very, very important question. Working in isolation? No. Team player? No. He is working as a freelancer. So he knows how to negotiate with people. He knows how to work with people. And by the way, being a team player, he's a freelancer, dude. So he has not even worked with the team. How is HR going to find out you are not a team player? So an HR would like a freelancer designer because you know how to handle very diverse set of people because you're freelancing for a couple of years and doing that very successfully. So I'd assume your soft skills, your interpersonal skills are going to be very good if you had been successfully doing that. Bad attitude, maybe not. Yeah, you will not survive the freelancing world if you have bad attitude, Karthik. Portfolio doesn't have a real user problem. Maybe not. His portfolio is good. Pride, no. No networking, no. You will not survive in the network, freelancing world. I mean, okay, you could be an introvert, but you're fairly skilled with your core skill set, design skill set, and you're fairly skilled with soft skills, negotiations, and all of that to be running with. Wrong mindset? No, no. Industrial design process. I told you no one's gonna guess this. If you guess this, I'll send you a personal gift. This is something people do not understand. Of a culture, body language missing. No. Punctuality? No, Yash. No. Salary expectations too high? No. I'll move on. I know nobody will be able to guess it. And you would also think the instance I'm giving is fictitious. It is not. No, he's not overconfident. A freelancing project he's taken is very diverse. No, Isaac, that doesn't seem to be the case. Collaboration lacking? No, he is a freelancer. He's worked for a while, and the HR has no way to find out that he collaboration is lacking. HR has no way. HR would have at best done psychometric tests on you, so they can say if you're a culture fit or not. Collaboration and stuff they would not be able to judge. Fear of being judged for skills. No, I know nobody has the answers, and I'm gonna give you the answer because I know this sounds very bizarre. Um, so not the degree, but the other side of it. He has not finished his college. No, not criminal record. He has not finished his college, and he never communicates that upfront. It only comes to notice of the HR when they are checking, they're doing the background check, background check and stuff. They come to know from the verification process. For a lot of companies, anything like that, you're going to get blacklisted, which means in your lifetime. So, see, when you flunk an attempt to get in a company like, say, a Google or Microsoft, um, you would be maybe blocked for a couple of months, so 6 months or an year. You can't reapply in that time frame, but you can apply after that because you had all the intent. You somehow didn't pass the process, so you can become a better designer and come back. That's fine. But if you have done a fraud, this is counted as a fraud. And me as a design manager, no matter what your level of skill is, integrity is non-negotiable. I can train somebody on skills. I've worked with enough designers and design managers know what to do there. Training somebody is one of the easier things. So Lee, the thing that I'm mentioning here is uh, Lucky hasn't finished his college education. He is skilled. He is a self-trained designer. He has the skills. The thing that he should have done is upfront in his application, he should say that my graduation was not completed. I mean, in this world today, nobody is against people who have dropped out of schools and colleges. That mindset is gone. That's long back. 10 years ago, maybe that was the case. Today, it's not. No, not even 10 years ago. Zuckerberg dropped off and was very, very respected for that. But um, that's not the case anymore, right? But you got to talk about it upfront. You can't fudge the documents and later let the HR find out through the verification process that you've not graduated. Um, I suppose there was this case of the CEO of Yahoo a couple of years ago, the founder of Yahoo, no, not the founder, the CEO, who had gotten fired from his Fortune 500 CEO post for that. Raj, it's not necessary to have a degree. It's not, but it's essential to not hide it. You might have done 10 plus 2, which is okay. You might have done your K plus 2, K12, that is okay. But you do not hide your personal details, your academic background. You just say whatever it is. Be upfront about it. That's what you do. I know for a fact, as of today, so I would personally know a lot of design leaders in most of the companies in India. A lot of them have not graduated their design school. They've not finished their masters or whatever graduates they were doing. They've not completed their design education. But I'm sure they're not hiding it. You're not doing information fraud by saying that you've cleared college, and then the HR in the final round, when they go and they try to verify, a lot of students or folks, younger folks think that I'm smarter than anybody else. How are they going to find out? Where will they find? I have seen people, and first-hand personal experience, I have seen people fudge academic documents. I have seen people fudge professional documents, claiming that they have done internships in places. I have also caught false profiles where the profile is not non-existent, meaning I have put together the skills of different people on my profile, and I'm running a shop saying I have these skill sets, but I don't have those skills. I mean, think of the level of deception you're doing to whoever you're talking to when you're doing this. And I've also seen people who have done, apparently smallish frauds where you're saying that my last salary was so much, but it was not so much. It was something else. And when the HR finds it out, they are finding it out. You should be the first one. You can be very upfront about it, saying my current salary is so much, or my last salary was so much, and I think I deserve a 50% or 100% hike, because ever since I have grown in my skill set, I have grown in my experience, whatever, and I'm going to take a much more bigger role in this company and whatever role it is. So you could ask for it. You could be upfront about it. Don't fudge data. Fudging data might get you some, might be, pushing you into in some very wrong direction. Some doors might just get closed on you, right? So I know I have blacklisted a candidate, at least one candidate I have blacklisted. So typically, as a design manager, or even I know for HR, they don't want to blacklist because they're good candidates. You don't want to blacklist them. But some of these situations are non-acceptable. And you'd be surprised to know how many instances of that a design manager goes through. I am requesting all of you to not fall in that trap. All right. Now, there's another girl, Nimisha. She is an engineer by training. She's a design intern. So she wanted to get into design. So she got an internship. She's working on it, and she's doing everything that she could to get the internship converted into an employment contract. Very smart girl, very well intended, and all of that, doing whatever she needs to do for her job. All of that. Any questions? Excuse me, guys. Any questions on the topics that we're discussing? Please put it in the Q&A. Otherwise, this string of conversation gets lost. So I'll come back to Nimisha. So she's an engineering grad who has become a design intern, and she's looking forward to building a career in design. What do you think? How is it going for her? And she's doing a bunch of things. She might be doing things right and wrong. What do you think are her chances of getting where she wants to get? What's happening there? Anybody wants to guess what's happening to Nimisha, or anybody wants to give her any friendly advice? I'm sure some of you would have gone through these situations where, you're an engineer, or you're trained in something else and you got into a design internship, then you're moving towards building a career in design. High? Okay, you think her chances are high? Okay. Or designer, then yeah, it's a good combo. I agree. It's a good combo. She can also get into a very hybrid dev plus design role, sure. Internship is a small period for somebody to judge the candidate. Um, what else? What else are we looking at? Wild guess. Okay, serial, interesting. Okay, she knows where she is and what she has to do for where she wants to go. I'm not sure. Oh, good to see you, Rehan. I saw you earlier on. I appreciate you joining in. I think it's early morning for you. Establishing a design mindset? Mm, maybe, maybe not. What else? Rayon? She's afraid of being jobless? No, she could be a full stack designer. So, her possibilities, all of you, the stuff that you're mentioning are her possibilities. In her reality, this is what is happening. So, she knows maybe the direction, but she doesn't have a goal. And she's gotten into it probably because right now UX jobs pay very well. I can tell you, I have met extremely skilled, well intended designers, very good designers, who have become or who are trying to become UX designers because it pays well. What else do you think pays well? I think there are a few thousand professions which can pay you well. UX is not just, I mean, you can't get into a profession just because it's paying well. You have to have some reason more than that to get into a job. So what's happening, with our lady here is she has a direction, but she has no goal, and she has gotten into UX with a herd mentality. So stuff like, my because my friends were saying this is a good thing, or my friends are attempting, so I'll attempt for it. And that is what is reducing her chances, because this is one of the questions I do ask all my new students as to what kind of designer do you visualize yourself becoming? And I will ensure you 100%, 100%, the people who have a visualization of themselves as some kind of designer are more likely to become that. And people who don't know what kind of designers they're going to become will very fairly become a very random kind of designer who is not good at too much, or probably who are clueless, who are directionless in their career. So they're not leading, but they are just following some of the other trends and somehow making way through. I don't wish any one of you go that path. Please don't. Yeah, that's the case. So it totally depends on the direction as well as the goal. So how will you hit a goal when you don't know where the goal post is? That's the metaphor here to remember. Yeah. So you're saying, can we elaborate more on what kind of designer do you want to become? Okay. So I'll tell you what kind of designer I had wanted to become. So I had wanted to become a designer who will create products for rural India. And that, I'm very happy to say, that's my expertise today. So not just rural India, but designing for next billion users market, that's my specialization. So there's a product called Internet Sathi, which is a Google signature product for rural employment and livelihood for women through mobile phones. I've been able to work on projects like that. And it is so close to my heart that it gives me the kind of pleasure I want to achieve as a person, as a designer. So that is the kind of visualization I'm talking about, where you have at least the knowledge of the direction you're going in. So you could want to become a design expert in designing for chatbots, or you might want to become expert in designing SaaS enterprise products. I don't know, or fintech, designing for fintech, designing for what else? There could be a thousand other examples like that. But oftentimes, people who have uh, an understanding of which direction they want to go will end up going that direction. That's this. So I recently had a student. She's a travel blogger, and she wants to become a designer who specializes in designing for travel and hospitality. So with that kind of a description, it becomes very easy for her as well as me as a mentor or her manager to chase that direction, follow that direction, look at where the guidance is and go in that direction. Otherwise, tell me, how are you going to say that I am successful in my career? Money will never be sufficient. Position will never be sufficient, because there are always going to be people who are ahead of you in whatever you're doing, unless you know. So in my case, like I said, designing for the next billion users market. So people who are using technology for the first time, I want to be designing for them all over the world. India, of course, home. So more close to me, but designing for first time internet users in Brazil, why not? Africa, why not? I also help startups like that. So that gives you a sense of purpose. And for things like that, that's going to give you a sense of achievement, a feeling of contentment in your career. Nothing else will. Nothing else will. I will, with a lot of confidence, say that money will not suffice. Definitely not suffice. We, at one point of time, you might tend to think that, I want that high paying job, and that's going to be my measurement of success. It will be for a very short period of time. Once you arrive there, you're again directionless. Unless you have a kind of motivation behind why you're doing what you're doing, you will never have a sense of success in your career. Never, ever. Yeah, I'm glad, Tejal, if that helped you. So that brings us to this. What did we learn from our young designer friends? A generic thought on what did we learn from all these cases right now? What do you guys think? Any thoughts? I'm sure you would have got a bunch of pointers, but some even likes to summarize what do you think of? What are we learning from our designer friends here? Be flexible and push ourselves out of the comfort zone. Yep, good point. having the right mindset. Oh, be open to their feedback. You're right. Growth mindset, perfect. Learn that it's not easy to be successful designer. Right. Have a goal. Bang on. Not be a human island. Totally correct. Communicate. Yes. All right. I'll tell you what I think. So this is the summary of my, it took me a lot of courage. Uh, Initially, when I became a design manager, it took me a lot of courage to accept that I have done all the mistakes that I could, and it would be in my own interest to prevent my team from doing the same mistakes, because I would lose time with the team, and they would lose a lot of their commercial, their professional life by making the same mistakes that I did. And it was a big realization that landed on my head one day, that just doing best design of your life aren't the whole thing. It's just the tip of the iceberg. So me coming from, one big design school, having gotten job at MNCs, very good MNCs, big companies, traveling all over the world, all of that, you tend to think that being the best designer you can is all you have to do. Unfortunately, the practicality of a design job is that designing is only the tip of the iceberg in terms of the skill set that you'll need. Just that. So, what's the rest of the iceberg? Let's see if we have the answers for it. Now, this is where, so because like I said, old habits die hard. Visual communication, I think in graphics, um, all of us have a kind of median in our life. So we have a set of expectations about ourselves in any situation. And that's the desired outcome we are thinking, right? We are okay with that. A little bit up and down is okay, but that's the median we have set for ourselves. Mistakes and failures happen when we do not comply with that. If we are complying with that median or somewhere close to it, we call it an achievement. If not, we call it either a failure or we call it a mistake. This is not wrong. This is how we can think of mistakes. And I want you to be very, very objective about your career mistakes, because, see, human evolution would not have happened if there were, I'll not call them mistakes, but there had to be changes in our context and situation which would lead to us becoming the better version of us. And that would not happen unless we try the whole spectrum of doing good, bad across the medium, failing on things. Unless we go through all of that, we're not going to achieve the kind of evolution. We would not have been able to achieve that, and even in future will not be able to. So unless you do those kind of trial errors, those kind of failures, you will not excel in life. I mean, that's just a fact and reality. So the the analysis of all of these cases, right, is that what has happened with design, and I think a whole lot of other professions, but design has a very strong people component, is we are trained on skills which are only the hand skills. Nobody has trained us on rest of the spectrum. So we are only trained on the tip of the iceberg, which are our design skills. But rest of the iceberg, nobody has bothered, or probably it's not the goal and intent of academics to train you for throughout. It's just the intent to serve that one part, which academics does very well. So we are not in a position to handle things which we are not aware of. That's why a whole lot of these mistakes happen. So stuff like you being a good designer alone will not suffice. You will not be taught that in design schools. No course will teach you that, right? You will have to learn it as you go. And hence, I'm making this effort. I do make this effort with all my students and mentees to tell them that open your eyes to other possibilities. You will learn as much as you want to learn, and then your horizons will expand. So the root cause of all of these problems, if you see, is you had not thought in that direction, and hence you made that mistake. That's basically what happens. So you're not aware of you're committing a mistake. So something like the case of a designer who's doing her job very well, and she keeps on doing excellent design deliverables. She had no reason to think that that's sabotaging her in any way. She might think I'm doing well, I should just get the next promotion. However, she's just doing the same thing over and again. She's not changing her levels in the game so that she perceives she's getting perceived as a player for the next level. That's what is happening here. So we are not aware of a whole lot of things, and that causes us to fall in the trap of making those mistakes. This was the whole root cause analysis of all the problems. There are more things that we could talk about, but I want to move on from now. How are we going to spot these flags? So I gave you some examples, and I can tell you I had a list of, when I was designing the session, I was thinking what kind of things to pick, what kind of, how to prioritize the mistakes that I've seen designers make. I have a list of 25, and I've just picked 6, 7 cases out of that. So you'd imagine there's much more. So my intent would be to help you understand how to identify it for yourself rather than me spoon feeding you, because I would rather teach you how to fish than catch a fish for you for one day. So moving ahead, the progression or the evolution of a UX designer is usually in these phases. I mean, which company, what skills, what background, doesn't matter. This is the evolution of a UX designer. You start by training on design, either you're self-taught, or you go through some curriculum, or you go through some immersive course, whatever you do, you train yourself, you get your foot in the door. So that's phase 2. You get started uh, working and then training yourself on job. Then you come to a point, phase 3, where you excel at work. Now you are an expert professional in that zone, right? And you've started achieving your career goals. And then you move towards a sustained, steady progression, which means now you have the guidance in yourself to build a career for you from that point. So stage 1, you're maybe a student or a professional who's gaining that skill. Stage 2, you are in the phase of getting your first job or first few gigs. Phase 3 is where you are now becoming from a fresher designer to a more evolved senior designer. And then sustained steady progression is where you are a design leader. That's the career progression of a designer. Now, this does not change. How you're going to spot the red flags for yourself is if you see you're not going this way. And by the way, I don't mean that everybody has to become a design leader. I have worked with some people who are design experts after 30 years of working as designers. So I don't count them as differently competent people, but they are people who are doing what they're doing. So say while I was working with SAP, I had worked with some of the very senior designers who were like about to be retiring in SAP. I mean, somebody who is like 50 plus and who has designed for essentially 30 plus years. Very senior folks, but they are senior designers, right? So there are people who have no management aspirations. They are subject matter experts in design and they're happy doing that. I've worked with those kind of people. So it doesn't mean that you have to become, so phase 4 doesn't mean that you have to become a manager or lead or something of that sort. You could be designer. You could be a senior designer. You could just be that. That would be your definition of it. So I'll tell you why it's important to understand there are different paths. So even if I have put it in one line, there are multiple paths possible for your designer's evolution. Now, this is something which is very deep. Take a minute to understand what Neil Armstrong said when he landed on moon. So imagine a person who's living on Earth. Your whole world is Earth, the planet we live on. This is like the whole existence we know. There's nothing beyond Earth that we know. This is the person, first human to land on moon. And then he is looking at Earth and he thinks that this thing is a tiny thing, a pea-sized thing, which is smaller than the size of my thumb. And that's where I lived all my life, right? And it also felt very small. This is a masterclass in, say, something like theory of relativity, right? Your perspective is your perspective and it changes all the time, all the time. So when you're looking at this evolution, it would mean different things to each one of you. Somebody might have different aspirations from the other person. So the same template, the meaning of phase 4 for somebody would be very different from what the meaning of phase 4 is for somebody else. That's what I'm telling about here. And the point to understand is your perception of what your career graph or career trajectory is should be your own. We've talked about no comparison. We've talked about that principle earlier. So remember that again. Everybody has a different perspective and they are on their career progression path with that perspective. Period. There's nothing wrong about it. And hence, the way of one of the foolproof ways to find out if there's anything wrong happening in your career, this is what you should be doing. So there are two views of, so when you have to summarize something, right? So we have two eyes. We see one composite image, right, which is caused by superimposing of two things. They are not even aligned. I mean, you could feel free to see how an image is formed with both the eyes, and if you take image from one eye, it's different. Our brain is doing all the processing to emerge it, what you say, reconcile it into a single image, right? Most of the systems have two, it's like the two sides of the coin. That's the principle you have to remember. When you want to spot anything that's wrong with your career, you will have to look at it from different perspectives. That's important. One perspective is, of course, yours, because you want to see yourself succeeding in a way. So you have a definition of something. So you have to find a way of evaluating yourself constantly, very objectively, not critically, not with a rosy tint, but very objectively. Very important. Yeah. And the second is feedback. Till this point of time, we were talking about me as a designer, you as a designer. Now we're talking of feedback. This is the best thing that can happen to you. So basically, it's very easy for you to identify if something's going wrong with your career, if you're doing any mistakes, by reconciling these two views. One is your own view about it, and second is somebody else's view about it. If you're only looking at your own perspective, it might have been a single eye image. Likewise, if you're just looking at only the feedback, you'd be looking at it from different angle. It's not total picture. Total picture happens when you superimpose both the views and get a composite image of what's happening there, right? So this is one method that I recommend for identifying if anything is going wrong with your career. One principle to remember, I've named it mirror principle, I usually call it. You can't know how you look like unless you look at a mirror. You need a mirror to look at yourself, period. There's no other way of looking at yourself, right? You could say a reflection in water, but it's still another medium, which means you have to see the composite image. You have your eyes, the method you're using, the tool, you're using your eyes to see, but then the impression is formed on something else. So that's what I'm talking about here, right? You guys get this? How you are going to identify if there's any problem? Feedback plays very important role here. So you can use your own perceptions, but just don't go with that. So the times that you think that, I'm not getting this promotion because maybe somebody else is more cunning. I've seen many designers hear that, and I feel very, very sorry for them all the time. Dude, nobody is cunning. You are slow. Don't make that impression of yourself, right? So understand, it takes two to tango. There are two sides to a coin. To spot anything that's going wrong with your career, you need to reconcile these two views. If there's anything that's happening, so if you're not getting response from HR, we saw Kiran's case earlier, you should very politely go back, write a mail to the HR and say, thank you. I understand that I have not gotten this opportunity, but I am still very happy that you took the efforts to help me process my application. Would I, I'd really like to request you to help me understand what went wrong. Had Kiran done that, he would have come to know what's happening. So instead of facing multiple rejections because of same reason, I mean, feel free to do a new mistake. Why do you want to fail with the same thing? Had he bothered to ask where it's failing, somebody would have shown him the mirror and he would have gotten a chance to correct himself. Yeah. Yes. So you get a 360 degrees view of yourself. That's right. That's right, Lee. All right. Moving on. We talked about the root cause of all problems, right? The root cause is there's a delta. The delta is because of multiple reasons. We talked about that. And we found this way of finding how, or whenever something you think is going wrong with your career, how to find what's going wrong and what could be the corrective path to it. That's the mirror principle. Just remember mirror principle. Next, how do you fix it? How do you fix you? When you have a problem with your career, how do you fix you? That's what we're going to talk about. I think we're short of time. Is it okay if we go a little about the time, guys? What do you think? You have some more time? Okay. I have one yes. All right. We have a few yeses. Okay. All right. I told you earlier on. Unless you give me feedback, I can speak like continuously for 60 minutes. I can live up to my promise and more. But I think this is useful too. So let's talk about how you fix you. So there might be some problems that you're doing unknowingly. So there are intentional mistakes and unintentional ones. It takes a different course correction for unintentional ones, but there is always a way to fix the intended ones. I mean, things that you have knowingly done, but you don't perceive them as mistakes, right? So that's where the self sabotage comes in place. First things first. Have Has anybody seen a building which has no foundation? Yeah, I've not seen a building, or for that matter, any structure which has a strong structure which has no foundation, right? Yeah, it's not possible. But Nadeem, you would be surprised. People think they can build careers without a foundation. I mean, had you thought about that? Give it a minute, let it sink in. We know it's important to have a foundation. And by the way, we talked about the iceberg earlier. The foundation is not your design skill set. In this world, I mean, we have learned this in school. Humans are social animals. So your EQ is important as your IQ, sure. But there is also a BQ, it's the business quotient. There's also a PQ, which is your people quotient. There are a lot of quotients which we do not even think matter. And that might be really sabotaging. Yeah. Yeah. Rayon, you are a civil engineer, yeah, you can vouch for it. ROFL, not LOL. It's that bad. But take it from me, in principle, it sounds good. People do not understand it. People do not understand it. So we are looking at the four foundational pillars of your UX career. None of them is less important. None of them is more important. We focus on knowledge, skills, and execution. We are trained on this, right? None of us are trained on the other three. I mean, think of it. You're trained on 25% of what's required. Hence, a lot of us will fail on these 75% that we are not, trained on, and we'll keep repeatedly doing the same pattern of mistakes. And those who kind of either figure it out or serendipitously discover any one or more of them, or maybe they're naturally good at it because of their background, or maybe their training, or maybe just their personality. They might be having some of those 75% on their skill set and they do better, right? These are the four foundational pillars of your UX career. One of them being missing, you will not be able to build this building that you're thinking of, which is your career. And you're thinking of building an Eiffel Tower on top of it, right? So you definitely want a very strong foundation. You need all of them to be equally strong. Well, in reality, a little bit less or more is okay. So you might be very good in the knowledge, skills, and execution part, but little less on the mindset part. Oh, sorry, little less on the people skill part. That's okay. But the first two that you see, which is the inspiration, goals, and principles, and the mindset attitude part, you will not survive any career. You will not have a thriving career in any domain, anywhere, if you are not clean on the first two. Yeah, if you don't have a reason behind what you're doing, why you're doing, right? And you don't have the right mindset for it. When I'm training designers, a lot of time they have very good skills. I mean, bootcamp students, of course, the bootcamp is designed to get them all those skills. So they get fairly well with tools, methods, processes, all of that. They're not able to think of themselves as designers. That's where the mindset work comes in. So hence, I would think the mindset comes in first. First, you need to think of yourself as a designer and have a definition for yourself of what you mean by being a designer, and then become one. Because otherwise, you're not going to be able to place yourself. You're not, I know a lot of people who have skills, but they don't know what they're doing as designers. I mean, they're lost. So just having skills will not take you there. Or just having Good people skills also will not take you there unless in your mind you are a designer and you know what it means to be a designer, right? These are some topics. I'm not touching this up in details. It's another workshop topic for the foundational principles of a UX career. But keep this in mind. You will need to master all these four pillars to build a strong building, a strong, beautiful structure on top of it. Otherwise, no matter what beauty you build on top of it, it's going to come crumbling down at one or the other point. Or you might have a very shaky structure, which keeps on wobbling all the time. It's not a strong structure at all. You don't want to, I'm sure, Rayon, you would vouch for it again, that you don't want to build a structure like that, which doesn't have strong pillars and foundations. All right. So moving on from there. So this is the gist of today's session. And I want you guys to tell me what is the most valuable asset you think you have. This one word will summarize the session for you. What do you think is your most valuable asset? Problem solving, hunger, mindset. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying as a designer, I'm saying as a professional or anybody who's trying to build a successful career. What do you think is your most valuable asset? Leadership, willing to learn, wanting to learn more, passion, curious, empathy. Yeah, there comes the word, Aditya. Overused and beaten to that death word, empathy. What else? Humility, readiness, passion, mindset, no ego, open to feedback, something else. What is your asset? That's the only thing which will help you progress in your career. Awareness, close to it, but not that. My mind, people. Mm, I'm surprised. Do you want me to tell what I think it is? Self awareness, close to it, yeah. Following industry trends, no yash. Consistency, close to it. Jerry, but not it. Okay. This is your only asset. It's not time. It's not curiosity. It's not hard work. It's nothing else but focus. Just this. And why do I think this is your most powerful, asset? Focus happens when you get rid of everything that's not necessary. It takes the whole narrative that we talked about earlier, it takes all of it to build focus. So it took me, I'll tell you my personal story and that will help you connect with this. Okay, Bharat is not in the session today. Okay. So till 2017, I was in my, traditional, oh, Bharat is there. Hey, cool. Good to see you, man. You are an influencer. Good to see you here. But till 2017, while I was in a corporate job, you have a very different perspective of yourself, right? You're doing all of these things. I had been running experiments to tick off my own bullet list to figure out, what is it that I want to do in life. I mean, is earning a lot of money it? Is leading teams it? Is the power of being a leader it? Or what is it that I want? It was very, I mean, and at that point of time, I had 15 years of work. It's not funny. I'm very upfront saying that I was fooling around with myself. I had a bucket list of things that I professionally wanted to do. I had not ticked them off. It took me 5 years of exploration between 2017 to now. We are in 2022 to arrive at what I wanted to do. So at that point of time, I was thinking, okay, I am going to do mentoring on side. Okay, I'll do some consulting. I'll do some mentoring. I have this job, this pays well, all of that. My own priorities were not clear to me. And I was fairly successful. I mean, I was on top of the food chain. I was heading design teams. It was a fairly good situation, if you ask me. So, but it was not what I wanted for myself. It took me a lot of courage to first accept that it was not what I wanted to do, take the jump, explore uh, things that were uncomfortable, and then arrive at something that now I know is what I want to do. Might not be paying as much, might be paying way more, might not, might have a lot more hardships than my earlier job. So in corporate job, you would understand, right? You are the boss. You can command a set of people. You can get a lot of things done from people. You get a steady paycheck and stuff like that. When you're when you're in a consulting or freelance role, you have to every single assignment you are negotiating. You are talking to unknown people. You have to prove yourself every other day. It feels like a lot of discomfort. But you know what? After doing that, I became so damn clear on what is my skill set that I want to use for the next 30 years of my career. So maybe 20 years are behind me, and I'm planning for next 50, or as long as I'm going to live, I'm going to be living like a designer. So for the journey of the next part of my life, I really wanted to be sure that I'm doing what I want to do. It took me all that discovery to have a focus on now what I wanted to do. So I had to get rid of all that was not serving me. And when you don't have, so there are some fortunate people out of us here that know what they want to do. Unfortunately, I'm not as smart, so I had to learn it the hard way by going the other way and figuring out what I do not want by the theory of elimination to arrive at something that now I'm comfortable doing. And I have validated the case for myself. I've done enough exploration to now say, I want to do this. So, this, my friends, is the one word summary of today's session. If you have the focus for your career, congratulations to you. You've already won the battle because you know where you're headed for. That's a win. Even if the target is far away, you have won half the battle, and I commend you. Like I told you, it took me 15 years and plus 5 of exploration to arrive at something which looks like this. And those of you who are on their journey to doing the same discovery for themselves, I commend you too, because it takes courage. It takes courage to not go by the script and figure out what you want to do. It's very easy to go by somebody else's template. It's very easy to go by saying that, easy life, take a big company job, stay in it, long years, retire in that job, switch jobs every 6 months, get 20% salary hike every year or something, happy life, get, stock options, good money, bank deposits, steady income, all of that looks good on profile and everything else, right? It takes a lot of courage to first be honest with yourself, accept that you want to do something which looks risky, and second step, actually do it. But I consider as having this focus as the primary thing that you need to do. If you have this focus, right, you are going to be headed towards it with all that you have. But if you don't have focus, you're running in all directions. You're basically a headless chicken. And I don't wish that for any one of you, right? So have you seen of any Olympian, or have you seen of anybody for that matter who has gotten early life success? I'm saying early life success because that's a very important word here. You could spend 30 years discovering what you want to do. That's not bad either. But anybody who has gotten success early in life were clear about what they wanted to do way before that. So you would see people, typically you'd see sports people, musicians. These are also some kind of creatives. We are another kind of creative. They are also some other kind of creative. But all the creative people like that, I have not seen any one of them not know what they had wanted to do and having achieved it. Because when you don't know where you want to go, how will you get there? And wherever you get, there's no way to say that you've arrived. Okay, saying that you've arrived is not important. Having the contentment of having arrived there is important, right? So this is the whole summary of today's session. We talked of the iceberg. We talked of, this is basically, so of the iceberg that you saw, the other three that we didn't, talk about, we talked about earlier are is probably the part of iceberg which is not seen very often. We only see the knowledge, skills, and design execution part. We talked of the often made mistakes, the root cause of it, the way to spot a mistake ahead of time, the importance of feedback, the importance of looking at a mirror professionally, getting feedback from people, and constructively using it for yourself, and then having the right foundation for your own career. So when you have the right foundation, even when you make mistakes, because your focus is clear, you will not be all over the place. You will be making mistakes in going towards that one goal or that set of goals in whatever progression that you're going, right? So that's my one word for you. Actually, if I have to give you three words, one, the summary of it is focus. Second summary of it, second word is mirror, and third word is uh, the delta. Delta was that's the part of how where the mistakes come in, because there's a mismatch between your median expectation in life. When you overachieve, you call it an achievement, or when you go beyond that median, you call it achievement. When you fall beyond it, below that median, you call it a mistake or failure. So first is that delta. Understand where it comes from. It comes from the place where we are not aware of most of the times what we are doing, and hence that is caused. Second word to remember is mirror. To spot where you're going wrong, you have to take feedback. There's no other way. It might sound difficult. It might sound like you have to keep your ego aside and everything else, but that's the only way to correct yourself. And then have focus. This is the corrective part. If you have the focus earlier on, uh, I mean, it's another topic for another day, but when you have the focus, the mistakes you do are still taking you in the same direction. You're not wasting time going all over the place, right? So having focus will, one, prevent you from doing uh, mistakes which you'll not be able to learn from too much. You'll be making mistakes in the direction that you want to do, where you want to go, and hence it will anyways take you close to what you want to achieve, right? So with all of that, that's the summary. That's the session for today. Thank you, everybody. We could be connected on LinkedIn. Uh, I am bringing up some content that might be useful for all of you who want to accelerate their careers in design. Um, and I'd love to get more feedback from you. Probably I have another set of goodies for you, which I'll share with Afif, and he'd be able to share with you later with the feedback on the session, right? So that's it from my side. All right, over to you, Afif.
Oh, wow, Shama. I think this was one session where we got a lot of clarity and a very realistic insight as to how does the how does the UX design career actually look like, and not just look at the glorified side of it. So thanks a lot for that, and I hope everyone really loved the session as much as I did. So I think we can dive into questions. You can stop sharing your screen and we can just have a chat. All right. So before we move forward to the questions that everyone has, I just had personally one question. Is you mentioned about the about understanding and recognizing the red flags that you go through in your career. So that's one side of things. There are also possibilities that things are going well, but you tend to look towards the negative side of it. So where you said that you are looking, you are not understanding what are the red flags that you're facing, because you are only looking on one from one side of things. So does that also apply to where things are going well, but you are always being very pessimistic and looking at the bad side of things?
Yeah, that was the case of Lucky that I mentioned earlier, Afif. That's a person who has less self-awareness or self-assuredness, I'll put it that way. Uh, I think designers are trained to be critical. So that's one of our core skill sets, and sometimes it becomes a handicap for us because we do a lot of critical thinking. Anyways, we do that, right? And we are hardwired to do critical thinking. So when it comes to evaluating our own selves, also, we get more cynical than optimistic. And that kind of leads, I've seen, so I'll give you a funny example of that. I had a website at one point of time. Right now, my website is, I've not looked at it for a bunch of years. So I was never happy with it and I abandoned the domain. Now, recently, when I wanted to set up for my business and stuff, I see that somebody is squatting on that website and asking me, say something like 2 lakh rupees, because they saw that earlier there was this website. This person exists somewhere and has some kind of business and they're squatting on it. So this happens to a lot of designers. This happens to a lot of students. I have to tell them, even if your portfolio looks bad, put it out. I mean, you're still better than the 95% who are not putting out anything. You're still better than that. But we are hardwired to do a critical thinking exercise on everything. So we tend to think that. I I just think it's a, what you say, professional hazard of being a designer. It's more like that.
All right. Okay, then diving into the questions, let's take them. Okay, here's the first question. What things should one know to get an internship in a good company, and how do you get one?
Okay. I don't know what a good company is, but getting one with a startup is different from getting an internship with, an MNC. In any case, you need two things. You have a profile and you have evidence. So profile is what you are. You're doing nothing about it. So if you have studied certain something, you already are that. I told you the case of not fudging the data. Be upfront about whatever background you come in from. So that's very straight on face. Second is the evidence. That's the part you have in your hand. So that's the evidence of you being suitable for that internship. You need that. So that means having a portfolio in place. Um, Bharat is there. Bharat is very nicely building the 5 minutes motivation community. So that's a third way of building your social influence by, by building your social influence, establishing yourself as an expert in that zone. So that's also something that you do. So when you're looking for an internship in a startup, you might have different benchmarks. You need a portfolio. As a designer, not having a portfolio in this world, I don't see any light for you at the end of the tunnel or anywhere else. You need a portfolio and you need an honest CV of who you are. That's the minimum that you want. If you want to say apply for bigger places, well, you could use something like social influence and more things, but you at least need a CV, practical, truthful, and an evidence, which is your portfolio, to say literally. And another thing to think of is networking with the right people. So you would be surprised to know that we see LinkedIn today, right? There's so much happening in LinkedIn. So many people are, correcting and getting jobs on LinkedIn, but still, jobs are gotten through networks. Period. If I'm recruiting somebody, I'm going to ask a friend or a friend's friend who for whom he or she had worked in the past. And with the networks of people, it's very easy to find somebody, understand their credibility, and bring in. So if you want to really get an internship with a place that you want, that's your ideal workplace, you will have to tap into your network. And it wouldn't hurt to very nicely and politely ask. I get a lot of prompts from people saying, I'm interested in an internship, please recommend me. For the love of God, why would I recommend a person I don't know? I mean, I'm sorry to say, don't approach things like that. Do your work first. Second, build your credentials. So had you worked with me, I'm in a position to give you a recommendation. I'm in a position to give you a reference. But stuff like, if you're doing a crossover, you need somebody that you know to connect you with somebody who can give you a referral. So when I get a request for, say, a referral also, I need to know that this is one, a credible profile. I don't want to refer a profile which I myself am not sure with, because my reputation is at stake when I'm recommending somebody like that. So don't violate the basics of networking. Don't randomly go and ask people for random things. You can ask for people for the guidance. People are okay to do that, but don't ask for referrals and stuff. Ask people to help you understand. So if you have a target employer in mind and you want to get an internship there, you might want to connect with some of the designers who are already working there. Maybe have a coffee chat with them, understand how that company works, also figure out for yourself if that makes sense, that opportunity makes sense for you, also understand from them what company culture is like and stuff. So it you understand the synergy between you and the role, and then go approach that person saying, I'm interested in this. Could you guide me and tell me what would be the best way to approach? When you ask nicely, people are not going to say no, but don't ask for recommendations and referrals straight on face. That's a no-no. Yeah, three things. You need a profile, you need a portfolio, you need a CV, you need a portfolio, and you need to approach it right through your network.
Okay, then Rahul has a use case lined up. I'm not sure if it is his or a very random one. So being a solo designer and in a contract of 1 year until till when I am stuck here. The problem is that the company thinks designers are just poster makers and graphic makers, and they don't pay good by saying all of this. So what to do in such situations?
Some of the workplaces are going to be like that. I mean, let's just accept it. So not everybody, or think about it, there are the number of companies that get formed in India or anywhere in the world, and the number of companies that employ designers, there's a very skewed ratio. So a lot of those companies are going to be recruiting their first designer, and you happen to be one of them. So it might be a flip switch if you think of it as an opportunity. But if the situation is really bad, one way to, I mean, it is unreasonable to think that people change their thoughts quickly, with some triggers or something. That won't happen. But I have seen turnarounds where once people see designers delivering value, then they start appreciating design. And then, I mean, I had seen firsthand, at one point of time, you are not getting heard and you're just making, say, icons and color palettes and stuff. It takes a while to let that sink in. That's difficult. But after the team starts seeing the value that you could deliver, the depth of thought that you could deliver, and the business goals that you could meet with that, is when they would call you in the room, give you that front seat for putting your thoughts forward and stuff as such. So there are many more ways to approach it, but the company culture is a very big thing to consider there. Some of the things you will not be able to turn around just by being yourself or over a short period of time. Maybe it takes a couple of years. You have to decide for yourself if it makes sense for you to remain in that situation for long, because your career is a very important, I mean, every single day that you spend working there is very important time of your career. You could make gold in that one day that you spend there by sulking over something that's inconsequential. It's not worth it. So you might want to give it some time to see what turnarounds are possible, define smallish missions for you to see if that's giving you a breakthrough. If not, you make a choice. I mean, some situations, there's just no synergy. So there's no point in sulking over it or even blaming somebody. It's just the situation to be blamed. People are not bad. They've just not known better. I just put it that way.
All right. Uh, okay. So let's take one last question. I think a lot of people are here to, ask all of their questions, but let's take one last. Rayan says that I see design as an evolving field. So I'm curious or worried that 20 or 30 years down the line, if I'll be able to relate to design people and solve their problems.
You The best way to deal with that, Rehan, is you would design for the people that you are able to relate with. So you would be able to relate to somebody. Design is evolving is no joke, and I feel that statement. Um, I have had needed to upgrade my skill set every couple of years when I was a hands-on, designer. Tools are new, methods are new, priorities are new, the way business is used, design is new, everything is new. And of course, on top of all of that, the cherry is the technology is changing. So everything that could be automated will get automated. You're talking of 30 years. I think in 5 years, AI will take over a lot of our work. Would that mean we'll have no work? Sorry, that's not the case. We will have work. We'll have to be smart in order to adapt ourselves to become the designers who are required in that situation. So the progression of things, if you stay course and you don't try to learn all of it at one go, you would still be able to handle it because you are also evolving with those evolving times. The problem would be if you don't evolve and 10 years later you figure out that, now I want to shift, and now the time is gone because now you're obsolete. You're living in a past world. You're trying to do a shift to a completely new world. But if you're evolving and changing with times, then you had already caught up on the changes. So you would not be very obsolete in the world in any sense. You would still be, don't worry, Rehan, you'd be able to relate to the world then. You'd be able to powerfully design for them as well. Don't worry.
All right. So we have more questions, but I'm really sorry, guys. We are running out of time. So thanks a lot for everyone who joined in. Thanks a lot, Shama. I think this was one of the most interactive sessions till now, and it was great to have you as well as everyone who joined. So that's it. We are heading towards the end of the day here in India. So a very good night to all of you here, and we hope to see you in our upcoming workshops.
All right. The pleasure is all mine. Uh, I mean, it's really cool to see people also interacting. I also get feedback. It's very essential, and also good to have those conversations, Afif, because a lot of times designers are suffering because we don't have a community where we engage. It's a very good platform where you're doing these conversations because I don't know where a lot of you guys would have heard about this. I have learned it the wrong way. I hope you don't, and you get smarter than me. So it's an absolute pleasure to have a platform like this where we could talk about what we could help each others with, and I'm really loving this. Thanks a lot for having me.
All right. So I think we'll end it on a note to like more to such conversations.
Sure. Thanks, everybody. Good night to everybody in India and whatever time of the day you are. Good luck to all of you. Stay in touch.
All right. Thanks everyone. Bye bye.